Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is part 3 of the presentation Cryptocurrencies from Islamic Perspective, the case of Bitcoin. In part 1, we briefly introduced blockchain and cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. In part 2, we discussed money from Islamic perspective. And in this part, we shall evaluate the Bitcoin from Islamic perspective. In part 1, we briefly described the characteristics of Bitcoin. It's a global cryptocurrency, money, e-payment system, and a public ledger all in one. It's not centrally issued, i.e. there's no single administrator or regulator. It involves direct transactions between users without intermediary like banks or other financial institutions. It's a peer-to-peer system managed through collective transparency, and transactions are verified by the network nodes and recorded in a distributed ledger within a blockchain. And also the transactions recorded and stored in blockchains are irreversible. And this makes Bitcoin a very secure money and payment system. And Bitcoins are created through a reward mechanism called mining. It's not backed by any asset. That is, it's not redeemable. Interestingly, cryptocurrencies are neither fiat nor real. For example, let's say we have fiat money here and the real money here. Fiat money having no intrinsic value. Therefore, it is Sinoraj. Sinoraj is the value given to the fiat money over and above the cost of creating the fiat money. Real money, they have intrinsic value and they're desired for their own sake. Now, cryptocurrencies not backed by real assets like Bitcoin, interestingly, they fall between fiat money and real money. It's not fiat because it is not created at the will of anyone. Like fiat money here, it is created by the central bank. For example, the currency notes are created by the central bank, whereas the most of the electronic money and so forth are created by the commercial banks. But here, it's not created at the will of anyone, but rather it is rewarded by the system for some job done. And cryptocurrencies, they do not have any intrinsic value. In other words, they are not desired for their own sake. So therefore, they are not also real money. So they fall in between fiat money and real money. If we look at the some of the features of Bitcoin, it has been growing in number or quantity over the years, from slightly below 2 million coins, and by 2017 it had reached about 16 million coins. And we know the maximum Bitcoins that can be created is 21 million. When we look at the price of Bitcoins, in 2009, when it was introduced, it was only very low, less than $1 per coin. It shot up in 2014 a little bit, then it was just hovering low here, and suddenly in 2017 it just shot up. You see, until on November 17, it reached a high value of 19,000 USD per coin. In that year alone, it increased 1,800% before coming down. Today it's hovering around $6,000 per coin. The price of Bitcoin has been very volatile, as you can see from this graph here. From 2010 until here, 2016, it has been, going up and down. You see the volatility? Yeah, it has been volatile, but if you look at the trend, the volatility has been rather decreasing over time too. Even though it remains volatile, but the volatility has been decreasing. However, when we compare the value of Bitcoin to gold, You can see how gold has been hovering rather in like a horizontal line, but the Bitcoin has been, have been volatile relative to that. It's very clear. So Bitcoin is quite volatile compared to gold. Okay, now in this slide, we ask the question, does Bitcoin fulfill the good money criteria that we established in part 2? First of all, is it accepted? Yes, most of the people, they accept Bitcoin on their own free will, but it has no intrinsic value. The first criteria is acceptance due to having its own intrinsic value. Therefore, it fails the first criteria here. Second, is it divisible? Being an electronic currency, it is highly divisible, so it's very good. Is it homogeneous? Yes, it's homogeneous because it's electronic. What about durable? Being stored as electronic bytes in a distributed ledger using the blockchain technology, we consider it highly durable. Is it mobile? Yes, definitely it is. Being electronic, it can be sent to any part of the world very, very fast. Another tick here. Is it rare? Well, the issuance of Bitcoin is through a mining process. We know it is not easy to get Bitcoin. So that makes it interestingly rare. Another tick. Does it have stable value with relative to other real things? So we just look at the graph earlier. The value of Bitcoin has been volatile all the while, even though it has been decreasing. And having no intrinsic value behind it, it does not have a stable value. So, Bitcoin fulfilled 5 of the criteria. It failed on the first and number 7. These two are important criteria. However, it failed. Now, let us look at the classification of money in society. On the vertical column, we have money with intrinsic value and those without intrinsic value. And on the horizontal axis, we have money accepted by people on their own free will or those forced upon them by some authorities or government, like through legal tender law. And lastly, money rejected by people. Hence, normal fiat currencies, they fall in quadrant 4 because they don't have intrinsic value and they are made legal tender. So they fall in this quadrant. In this quadrant, for example, having intrinsic value and accepted on their own free will, so we have private dinars and dirhams, dates, salt, barley, wheat that played money in history. M-Pesa in Kenya is money where airtime is used as money. And this is 1 gram is a cryptocurrency backed by gold issued in Dubai. Bitcoin falls in this quadrant number 2. It is accepted by people on their own free will, but it does not have intrinsic value. So it falls here, together with all other fiat cryptocurrencies. In quadrant 3, we have where the money has intrinsic value, but it is forced upon people by some authority. So here we have sovereign dinar and dirham of the past and sovereign precious metal coinage, the gold standard, the Bretton Woods system, the Petro in Venezuela. Petro is a cryptocurrency issued by the Venezuelan government but backed by oil. Therefore, it has intrinsic value. Quadrant number 5 is money that is rejected but they have intrinsic value. For example, car, or the iron, metal, sand, and so forth. They are rejected because they do not fulfill the criteria for good money. In quadrant 6, rejected by people and having no intrinsic value. So most of the obsolete fiat currencies of the past, they fall in this category, including failed cryptocurrencies. So ultimately, all money that have no intrinsic value will collapse and will come into quadrant number 6. However, so long people use anything as money, either through their own free will or through law, Sharia scholars would normally regard this as urf or general practice and hence term them as Sharia compliant and halal on the basis of maslahah or public interest. So therefore, quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4 will be deemed as Sharia compliant. So even though Bitcoin has no intrinsic value, in this quadrant number 2 here, even though Bitcoin has no intrinsic value, it is accepted by people on their own free will. Hence, Bitcoin will be termed halal and Sharia compliant. But we must bear in mind all fiat currencies will ultimately collapse due to the lack of real backing, that is, having no reference material. Since money without intrinsic value has no ain, strictly speaking, like what Professor Nyazi concluded, it is not Sharia compliant. Money without intrinsic value, therefore, has element of injustice embedded in them. Even though Sharia scholars are likely to regard all money in quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4 as Sharia compliant, in our opinion, only quadrant 1 and 3 are truly Islamic money. Because only 1 and 3, they have intrinsic value and therefore the concept of adl is embedded in them. So whether people accept them on their own free will or whether it is forced upon them by some authority, in our opinion, it is Islamic money. When we say Islamic money, it means they contribute to the attainment of the maqasid al-Sharia. This table compares cryptocurrencies with fiat monies with respect to maisir, gharar, and whether they contribute to the maqasid al-Sharia. Maisir is degree of gamble, while gharar is the degree of uncertainty. In this column, we have the usual fiat monies, while this one, cryptocurrency is not backed by real assets like Bitcoin, and the last column, cryptocurrency is backed by assets like gold. We give our subjective evaluation for all these. Now, the degree of maisir. Gamble is where one takes an uninformed decision, i.e., decision not based on knowledge. When money is not backed by real assets, then its value is as good as the credibility of its issuer. Hence, fiat money and unbacked cryptocurrencies have some degree of gamble or maisir because their value is simply what is determined in the exchange market that can be easily manipulated. Cryptocurrencies in column 2 are not issued by some central authorities or government, but rather private parties that are not regulated. When anything goes wrong, then the owner of such cryptocurrencies tend to lose significantly. Hence our judgment that it has high degree of maisir. Normal fiat monies have medium level of maisir because governments tend to stand behind them, managing them in the foreign exchange market and protecting them legally. Cryptocurrencies backed by real assets like gold, we believe have low degree of maisir because there is asset backing and some authority that issued them are behind them. Hence, transactions in this must be necessarily be audited by some trusted parties, regulated, and thereby providing some credibility and stability to the whole thing. When it comes to money, the level of gharar is also related to the credibility of the issuer, the system, and if there is asset backing. Unbacked cryptocurrencies have high degree of gharar because participants in such systems will have no recourse if anything goes wrong with the system or happens to the issuer. However, in part 1, we mentioned that blockchain technology reduces uncertainty. This is true in its function, but however, as a money system, one is subjected to uncertainty, that one may be left unprotected if anything goes wrong, since there is no party taking responsibility for the system as a whole. For the usual fiat money, we give a medium classification since governments stand behind to protect their money and monetary system. And for cryptocurrencies backed by real assets, we give a low level since their issuers stand behind them, taking legal responsibility, and such cryptocurrencies are also redeemable for real assets. Hence, our prediction is that values of unbacked cryptocurrencies would tend to be most volatile relative to real items, followed by normal fiat monies. Cryptocurrencies backed by real assets like gold would tend to depict stable value over time relative to real things. Now, now the next is whether they contribute to Maqasid al-Sharia. Unbacked monies like fiat monies and cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin do not have ayn, and therefore they do not contribute to the attainment of the Maqasid al-Sharia, while cryptocurrencies backed by real assets do contribute to the attainment of the Maqasid al-Sharia. Madina Kalimulina, who is the advisor on Islamic economics and finance at the Russia Mufti Council, said, the absence of a single regulator for cryptocurrencies is one of the major issues which confuses followers of Islam. Among the main arguments against Bitcoin is a high degree of risk, maisir, and uncertainty, gharar, a lack of provision of real assets, and state guarantees. We therefore agree with her opinion. Now we are coming to the final, which is the analysis of Bitcoin from Islamic perspective. Firstly, we found it has no intrinsic value, that is, it has no ayn. Therefore, it has sinoraj. Hence, the element of economic injustice is embedded in it. Thereby, it lends itself to speculation, making its value highly volatile, just like other fiat monies. Since it does not have a stable value, it can't play the role of store of value well, which is the litmus test as to the validity of a medium of exchange in terms of the Maqasid al-Sharia, particularly the element of protection of wealth. So while cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin are accepted by people on their own free will and used as money in peer-to-peer transactions, this can be considered as urf, or general practice of the people, and hence is money among the people who use it, and therefore the rules of our sarf, exchange, and riba will be applicable on it, just like the existing present fiat monies. However, since such cryptocurrencies are not redeemable for some real asset like gold or silver, then they do not have ayn and render them not Islamic money. That is, they do not contribute to the attainment of the Maqasid al-Sharia. Now, what is the best money for today? We have here today fiat money. Normally we take fiat money to be issued by government, but in reality, most fiat money are issued by commercial banks when they lend out loans. We believe cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin are better than fiat money, even though they are not backed by real assets. Firstly, because we give the power of money creation to the public by doing this. Or the responsibility can be taken over by a government where all money is issued in the form of cryptocurrency. This is equivalent to like public banking. Higher than that is where a government issued cryptocurrency which is made to be equivalent to some value of gold. For example, one cryptocurrency is equivalent to say 4.25 grams of gold, like the dinar. Higher than that would be gold-backed cryptocurrencies. Now, these cryptocurrencies can be issued by either government or even private parties because it has asset backing. That will be even higher. But in our opinion, the best money for this age is gold-backed cryptocurrencies and payment systems with netting facilities. With netting, we can do a lot of trade and economic development with a minimal amount of gold behind it. Thank you very much, and this ends our presentation. Salam and bye.